Hey everyone, and welcome back to another walking tour. We travelled across to the south of Wales to explore more hidden gems and visit places on our pinned list. Our first explore took us to the impressive Norman stronghold of Chepstow Castle. Built in 1067 by William Fitzosborne, who was one of William the Conqueror's most important allies, Chepstow Castle is the oldest surviving post-Roman stone fortification in Britain. Its original structure was made from stone, rather than an earth and wood structure, like most castles. But this was done because of how important the location was considered to be, where it lay as a tactical stronghold between England and Wales. Fitzosborne had been instrumental in persuading the Norman barons to support the invasion of England, and he was rewarded with the title Earl of Hereford, which included extensive lands in South Wales, including Chepstow. However, he didn't live long enough to enjoy the fruits of his reign, as he was killed in 1071 at the Battle of Cassel. As we take steps inside the castle, we are met with the famous oldest wooden door in Europe, all wood and all of 800 years old. Until 1962, these doors hung in the main gateway, but are now resting safe in the on-site exhibition, where you will also see the four main stages of development at Chepstow. The door is particularly beautiful and ornate, with so many different details. It's really no wonder why the door is so popular. And what we enjoy about visiting Cadw sites are how much information they always give to help paint the story. We move on through the castle and spot the way down to the cellars and the guardrobe, but we will revisit here later on in the video. Fitzosborne wanted a castle to control the main river crossing over the Wye on the main route into Wales. He chose a narrow point overlooking the river for his fortress, and the geography of this site influenced the design of the castle over the next few centuries. The constructed site meant that Chepstow developed into a very long, narrow castle, with one ward leading onto another, along a vertical axis. His son, also named William, plotted against the crown, and Chepstow became a royal estate. In 1189, Chepstow was passed to William Marshal, one of the greatest knights of the medieval period, and later the Earl of Pembroke. It is to Marshal that we owe much of the castle that we see today. He extended and strengthened the Norman castle and enclosed it with strong stone walls punctuated with towers, in a design that was reminiscent of castles in the Holy Land, where he had once been on crusade. Marshal used his immense knowledge of warfare design to add fortifications to Chepstow, to not only modernise the existing structure, but to further protect it. He not only built the main gatehouse, which still exists to this day, but he also rebuilt the east curtain wall, adding dual towers that projected outwards to provide added defence protection to the fortress's unguarded side. The two towers were outfitted with arrow slits, which would allow the inhabitants the opportunity to give covering fire to the units on the ground at the front curtain. This was a defensive feature that would become a new medieval standard in military castle design. But the Marshals weren't done just yet. It was around 1245 that William's son took over and began enlarging Chepstow Castle's layout. This included improving accommodation floors inside the hall and adding a new lower bailey with gatehouse and constructing additional defensive measures to the keep. This included a solid barbican. It's here that the buildings are having conservation work and have restricted access, so we weren't able to actually venture all the way around the castle today. But being able to walk the upper bailey through the long gallery is still very impressive. And also, if you peek out, whilst you're walking the Upper Bailey, you can see the stunning view of the River Wye and how solid the castle is, whilst being set high on the sheer rock face and river cliff. A fantastic experience is being able to see the Great Tower. It was the central hub of Chepstow and the keep. It was built of stone excavated from local quarries, and some of the blocks were reused from the nearby Roman ruins. You're able to walk the battlements along the Middle Bailey to just see how grand and beautiful the brickwork is, as well as the round towers. The Great Tower was a very important domestic medieval building. It has ornate main entrance as you enter through, and you're wowed as you glance in. It was originally 2 stories, with the upper story being one long room. It became luxurious accommodation, and the curtain wall to the north was heightened for added protection. Now what remains is beautiful reminiscence of the various building stages and the stunning architecture that included part of the arches built to divide the first floor room within the tower. The carving is said to be of the highest quality. Much was spent and designed into making this accommodation very elegant. The main gatehouse and entrance to the castle is through the iconic round twin towers, with plain arrow slits that sit at 3 different levels. The archway had portcullis slots and the remains of murder holes. These round towers were less vulnerable as they had no blind corners. The walk along the south curtain wall in the Middle Bailey is interesting. You can see inside one of the towers here that still have the original steps leading up and spiralling. Then as you wander back, you can truly marvel at the stonework of the Great Tower. The yellow sandstone used by the Normans and previously the Romans can be seen on the patterned doorway on the east wall of the tower. Alongside the Lower Bailey on the south curtain wall, a gun port was installed to help fight the siege, and a plaque has been placed where it would have been to commemorate Sir Nicholas Kemi, who led the Royalist defence and was killed in combat after refusing to surrender. Built by Roger Bigod in 1293, Martin's Tower, with its grand private rooms in the beginning, was intended as a guest suite for the king. All three access doorways had a portcullis, which allowed the tower to be isolated from the rest of the castle. On top of the battlements, you are able to see some of the carved figures. They include a soldier, a musician, and a knight. After being modified in the Tudor period, Chepstow saw action in the Civil War. It was held for the king in 1645 and then again in 1648, but each time it was captured by Parliament. After the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, the castle was used as a prison and a military garrison. The most famous prisoner here was Henry Martin, a lawyer who had signed Charles I's death warrant. Martin was held for over 20 years in the tower to the left of the main entrance, a tower which now bears his name. The base of the tower has massive, tapering spurs in stone to protect it from attack by miners. In front of this tower, and on the inside, is the castle's well. No expense was spared in the craftsmanship, and all the details are richly decorated in the tower. You are able to explore all the way up to the top of the battlements for spectacular views, and the statues that were placed on top of the battlement as well, that were designed to impress. Whilst exploring around the service areas, you can walk into the kitchen, which has now partly been renovated into a gift shop, which is quite unique. But what's fascinating about the kitchen is the huge serving hatch that would have had baked goods and served wines and ales fresh from the cellars nearby. A new hall block to the north side of the Lower Bailey was built. The range included a large vaulted wine cellar with elaborate and unintentional moss that covers the ceiling, that gives such an interesting and photogenic look, but it's really fantastic to see the vaulted ceilings left as they are. Above here are the service rooms, with a large kitchen, domestic accommodation, and of course the hall itself. You can also venture into the weird and wonderful latrine that was built high over the river cliff, away from the kitchen and hall for privacy. These rooms are of course some of the most important. The cellars underneath the castle provided storage spaces, as well as being a quick access to the river, with the goods being hiked up from the boats on the river below. I think my favourite part was heading up to the steps and onto a private balcony. This overlooks the river and was regularly used by the Lord and his family to soak in the stunning views. The views are very picturesque, and you can also see the birds nesting in and around. Today the castle remains beautiful, abandoned and romantic, but it's such an extensive ruin, it's really worth the visit to explore the hidden gems and also finding new and exciting features that you wouldn't normally see just walking around. The day was perfect for learning more about Chepstow, and if you hang around till the end, we will leave you with some aerial views where the sun comes out, giving us the shadows overlooking the castle in all of its glory. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed walking along with us, why not hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Till next time.